Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, welcome everybody to this week's Movie Nights with Matt. Fun experiment that we've been doing every Monday night at 6 p.m., going through our ever-growing catalog of films that Cynthia and myself have been putting out and which have been made possible through our collaboration with Jason Dahl, who is going to be joining us very shortly, a great filmmaker and general all-around handyman when it comes to all things multimedia, which has just been it's been explosive in our ability to increase the power of communicating high ideas. And as promised, we have noted that there is an acceleration of the UFO disclosure psyop, which is moving faster and faster by the day. And so we thought it convenient to begin to play in the wake or in the midst of the Christmas season, as people's minds tend to go to mush, our Hidden Hand Behind UFOs series. We're gonna jump into episode 1 in the new year. We're gonna go straight into episode 2 for some specific reasons that I really wanted this story to be told before Christmas. And Jason has agreed, like I said, to join us to chat a little bit. But before we do anything, before we meet Jason, before we start the film, we have to listen to a couple of ads from today's sponsors. So the first one we have here is Rise Attire, and then our friends at Tamarack Garden. So let's do Rise Attire first.
Cheers, Badlanders. Ready to stuff your stockings with some new streetwear that'll really get the jimmies rustling? The holidays are here, and so is the new Rise Badlands collection, just in time to go walking in a winter wonderland. No matter where you're from, we're all Badlands natives with these brand new threads. Show up with the purtiest ugly sweater at the party with the Badlands Christmas collection, or make your favorite Badlander buddy feel all warm and fuzzy with a variety of plush and Sherpa blankets to choose from. Plus, you can stack the classics under the tree, deck the halls with Devolution, rock around the Christmas tree with Rushmore, or have yourself a merry little clown world. Everything we do is custom made from scratch by the elves at our East Peoria, Illinois facility, who are all legal U.S. citizens. But the process takes time, so don't wait. Grab your gear today at badlandsmedia.tv/rise. Under the tree and over the target.
All right, so that was Rise Attire. Now we're going to hear a word from Tamarack. All right, so are you looking for a better alternative to the other over-the-counter drugstore medications? Tamarack Garden began from a parent's desperate need for safe and effective options for their kids, tired of toxic chemicals. Taking matters into their own hands, they began crafting medicine from weeds, wildflowers, and herbs, the original time-tested healers that modern medicine cannot match. Packed with antiviral herbs to boost immunity and fight illness, Tamarack Garden has, for a limited time, their elderberry and rosehip syrup kit available. Not only is it delicious, no more battles with the kids, and easy to make, it will keep you and your family healthy all fall and winter. Introducing Tamarack Garden's new baby line. Clean, non-toxic, and gentle for newborns and moms, relieving cradle cap, diaper rash, stretch marks, and postpartum pain. Visit tamarackgarden.com today and use promo code Badlands for $10 off orders over $50. Remember to eat your weeds. tamarackgarden.com, promo code Badlands. All right. So without further ado, let me bring on my good friend Jason Dahl. Jason.
Hey.
How
I
you
took
doing,
away
man?
my background.
Oh, I did. That's okay.
Background all set.
Green is pleasant. That's half the color swatch for Christmas. So well, okay.
There we
All right.
go.
That's
Cool one look.
too.
Very official.
Oh, that one's
All
nice
right.
and homey. Yeah, stay with that one.
Yeah.
I like that one. Classy. Okay. Cool, man. So, Jason, I'm really looking forward to watching this movie with everybody here on Badlands. There's a lot that went into this. I don't know if you want to say any quick thoughts you have that you want people to think about going into the H.G. Wells film, or do you want to reserve that for the very end after we've watched the movie?
So for me, I'm often learning as I'm going with these things, and this one is so dense with information. But I mean, talk about iconoclasm. The way that the H.G. Wells is set up for us as kids is just this wonderful, gifted brain, such a visionary of the future and stuff. And Yeah.
I know.
Well, just anybody going into it with that outlook from childhood that we learned about him in school, I feel bad for you.
Yeah, get ready for some cognitive dissonance.
It shows you how far back everything goes.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's all a plan," and yeah, it is, and it's been on for a long time.
Yeah, and H.G. Wells, just to say quickly, like, I mean, people are going to be introduced to him as more than just a storyteller, but it really gets us down to how science fiction, the realm of fiction, the coloring of the collective imagination is really the principal domain of warfare that the oligarchy has been exerting influence over for a long time, more influential than people realize. So when they watch their shows, they watch their movies, they even read a lot of the fiction books that are close to their heart. You really have to hold a critical eye now with what you know about how society has been malevolently organized to be aware that there are certain highly vetted occult content creators that go back. I think H.G. Wells sets the tone for this in many ways, but that color and work on the collective dream, the collective idea of what the future is, so that we are more adaptive to unnatural situations that are imposed upon us, instead of doing the human thing of fighting back over solutions when evil should impose itself onto us. So very important idea. And as I mentioned, in the wake of Anna Polina Luna and that whole disclosure operation, it's going to go heavy. We're getting heavy in the fictional, narrative space of Netflix and Amazon and Hollywood and you name it. So now's the time to increase our muscles. And yeah, don't let your emotional affinity to H.G. Wells get in the way of the story. So yeah, man, let's just watch it and we'll talk about it. And anybody watching live right now, hold any questions you have in mind for Jason or myself, because we're going to have 30 minutes when this thing is over to engage with the audience. So get your questions ready, and I'll try to keep my eyes on the comments section as well. All right.
And if I can just say hi to everybody on Super Spreaders, I am restreaming this.
All right.
It's a
Super
feature
Spreaders
in StreamYard, and that reminded me. Yeah, so
good.
Hey, all Super Spreaders.
All right. Hail Super Spreaders. And for that, go to the comment section, and I put a link to follow Jason on X as well that people should do tonight. So here we go. H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds coming up. Oops. Oh, let's get ourselves off this thing.
Are they out there? Or are we being used? Why now?
There's footage and records of objects in the skies that we don't know exactly what they are.
Disclosure.
Informed in the course of my official duties of a multi-decade UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program.
Or PSYOP.
Very high level that close the door, look me in the eye, says, okay, I'm going to introduce you to somebody.
What is the agenda?
Protect the higher echelon against detection. They can serve as a means of effecting communication.
A war of the worlds? Or a war for your mind? Join the search for the truth. The ability to discern reality from fantasy is an absolute precondition for survival. But lately, this discernment has become much more difficult than it used to be for millions of people in America and beyond. And why not? Extraterrestrials have transformed from the stuff of science fiction into hard fact, supported by congressional testimonies of Pentagon whistleblowers leading figures in American intelligence services, and elected officials.
From what you know, are they all the same, or we got different kinds of them?
Georgia's at least 70 different species, and probably more.
Offering new and robust data acquisition methods into UAPs.
They keep telling us they don't exist, but they block every opportunity for us to get a hold of the information.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
We are told to prepare for government disclosure of alien contact at any moment.
The transdimensional interstellar technology will benefit humanity.
And even the CIA has released reports claiming to have captured 9 UFOs since 2003 alone. But is any of this true? Or is our perception of reality being blurred by design by political forces that wish to reset not only humanity's economic systems, but entire value systems, in order to bring about a new set of sacred beliefs about mankind's origins and purposes, guided by a new technocratic priesthood? To explore this important question in greater detail, we will go back in time, skipping over decades, across the assassinations of presidents, the creation of a military-industrial complex, wars in Indochina, and even before a war with Nazi Germany, to a man named H.G. Wells and his call for world government. Although popularly known as a writer of science fiction, H.G. Wells's tireless efforts to propagandize for the cause of world government provides us a master key into understanding his role shaping world politics and even in understanding the true purposes of his science fiction works. In fact, the term New World Order itself was coined by H.G. Wells in his 1940 book, outlining a plan for coordinating a new regime of global control with the intention of replacing the outdated structures of nation-states with a system of collectivization managed by a high priest class of scientific engineers. In his New World Order, Wells was explicit. It is the system of nationalist individualism that has to go. We are living in the end of the sovereign states. In the great struggle to evoke a westernized world socialism, contemporary governments may vanish. Countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting it. Wells was not merely a political theorist speaking in a vacuum, but as chair of the League of Free Nations Association in January 1919, Wells published the idea of a League of Nations, which promoted the League as the basis of his New World Order. Additionally, Wells's Declaration of the Rights of Man, published in 1940, did in fact become the basis for the later UN Declaration of the same name in 1948. Thus, we should ask the question, were Wells's fictional works separate from the political ambitions to which he was devoted? Not at all. In his fictional work, Shape of Things to Come, published in 1933, H.G. Wells writes of the future, predicting rather optimistically that there will be another world war in just a few years, followed by epidemics and famine. In this fictional future, war continues for 30 years into the 1960s, despite the people having forgotten why they started fighting. Humanity enters a new dark age. In a last bid for victory, the enemy deploys a biological weapon, resulting in the wandering sickness, producing the first zombies ever shown in popular entertainment. By 1970, Wells describes how the global population has dropped to a little under 1 billion. Although this is depicted as horrific, it is at the same time depicted as a necessity, a reset to restore the balance, so to speak. It is only with this reduced population size that the world can begin to build back better out of the chaos. A world of failed nation-states is replaced with a new phase of evolution as a biologically superior species emerges, with the inferior having been culled by war and disease. This new transhuman species is managed by a bureaucratic system under the form of a world government. This theme is repeated again in his earlier work, The World Set Free, published in 1914, where Wells predicts the atomic bomb, which, though monstrous, is again a necessity to allow humanity to reset and enter into a more civilized, more evolved species, a utopia organized yet again under a world government. In The World Set Free, Wells writes, "The catastrophe of the atomic bombs which shook men, shook them out of their old established habits of thought, and out of the lightly held beliefs and prejudices that came down to them from the past. Men were made nascent. They were released from old ties. For good or evil, they were ready for new associations. The equilibrium could be restored only by civilization destroying itself down to a level at which modern apparatus could no longer be produced, or by human nature adapting itself and its institutions to the new conditions. It was for the latter alternative that the assembly existed." This is also how Aldous Huxley starts his Utopia for a Brave New World, which portrayed a future inspired largely by Wells's vision. Huxley writes that his Wellsian-inspired utopia could only have come about after the 9 Years' War, the great economic collapse, where there was only a choice between world control and destruction. Throughout Wells's stories, anyone supporting national sovereignty were showcased as simply ignorant militarists who were ultimately forced to submit to the greater wisdom of Masonic high priests of global government.
We're scouting this region now to see how things are. You found out. This is an independent sovereign state.
Yes, we must talk about that.
We don't discuss it.
We don't approve of independent sovereign states.
You don't approve.
We mean to stop them.
That's war.
If you will.
All right, I think we know how we stand.
The concept of human nature itself is consistently featured as a mixture of corruption, selfishness, and self-delusion, animated by folly and Darwinian forces of survival of the fittest in a race of each against all. In The Time Machine, civilization has long been destroyed as humanity has evolved into two separate species, one being monstrous Morlocks, the heirs to the laboring classes, and the other being simple-minded Aryan LOI, the offspring of the oligarchical families, who serve as food for those underworld creatures that are the genetic heirs of the 20th century working class. In the 1914 novel The World Set Free, new breakthroughs in atomic science usher in horrific doomsday weapons destroying most of humanity with visceral descriptions of millions slaughtered by nuclear fire and years of nuclear winter. This book was written 30 years before the actual creation of an atomic bomb, and as we will come to see, directly guided the minds of those who founded the Manhattan Project, which in turn manifested on Earth Wells's 1914 vision during World War II. The self-induced slaughter of humanity is, of course, solved with the eventual creation of a world government made up of genetically modified superior humans and a new world religion, guided by a visionary leader whom Wells named Marcus Karenin. Wells describes Karenin's view of the new religion.
He saw religion without hallucinations, without superstitious reverence, as a common thing, as necessary as food and air. He saw that indeed it had already percolated away from the temples and hierarchies and symbols in which men had sought to imprison it, that it was already at work anonymously and obscurely in the universal acceptance of the greater state. He gave it clearer expression, rephrased it to the lights and perspectives of the new dawn.
H.G. Wells was not the first imperialist to recognize the value of terror of the unknown as a useful tool in controlling the masses, but he was the first to give this external terror the form of extraterrestrial invaders from outer space. In The War of the Worlds, published in 1898, these invaders from Mars descended upon an unwitting humanity with the intention of mass extermination and enslavement of the survivors, utilizing death rays and poisonous gas. The aliens featured in Wells' stories were akin to gods, beyond the power of mankind to affect in any way, and omnipotent in their capacity for destruction and manipulation of the insignificant lives of the masses. Or, to be more specific, the aliens were portrayed as a way to cull the human population of its most weak, of its most unfit to survive.
In the house of the Lord forever.
Wells described the aliens in War of the Worlds as a more evolved species of human, but likely with a common origin. Thus, the aliens were largely to be viewed as our future, more evolved and efficient selves, removed of organic fluctuations of mood and emotion. Wells would consistently stress the evolution of large heads with very small bodies.
Strange as it may seem to a human being, all the complex apparatus of digestion which makes up exist in the Martians. They were heads, merely heads. Entrails, they had none. They did not eat, much less digest. Instead, they took the fresh, living blood of other creatures, including humans, and injected it into their own veins. To me, it is quite credible that the Martians may be descended from beings not unlike ourselves. We men are just in the beginning of the evolution that the Martians have worked out. They have become practically mere brains, wearing different bodies according to their needs, just as men wear suits of clothes.
When the aliens failed to take over the Earth in the War of the Worlds, it is not due to human innovation or bravery, but the mere chance of an Earth-based germ, from which the invaders from Mars had no immunity, resulting in their death. Describing the wreckage of the dead aliens, Wells writes,
Scattered about it, some in their overturned war machines, some in the now rigid handling machines, and a dozen of them stark and silent and laid in a row, were the Martians, dead, slain by the putrefactive and disease bacteria against which their systems were unprepared.
Thus, ironically, it was the backwardness of the humans who had not yet found a way to eliminate all germs and disease as the aliens had that resulted in only a temporary defeat of the invaders. To comprehend why Wells devoted himself to stories that portrayed bleak dystopias, pathetic humans, and only destructive uses of technology, and why he worked so tirelessly to advance systems of global technocratic controls, it is important to take note of the figure of Thomas Huxley, sometimes known as Darwin's bulldog. It was in 1884 that Huxley mentored a young H.G. Wells at the Normal School of Science in South Kensington, converting the young student from Christianity to radical eugenicist and atheist. Discovering Wells's imaginative powers and slavish loyalty to elitist systems of empire and obsession to break out of his impoverished family origins, Huxley had no difficulty recruiting a young Wells to the cause of empire. The same year that Wells was born, in 1866, Huxley had himself risen to great heights within the British Empire's intelligentsia, such that he was tasked with managing a new star at the British Royal Academy named Charles Darwin. Under Huxley's management, Darwin's theories on natural selection would soon challenge the orthodox view of human nature as a divine species made in the image of a creator. Despite not actually believing in Darwin's theory of natural selection, due to the theory's inability to account for the non-existence of gradualism in fossil records, and the system's inability to acknowledge directionality over long spans of time, presuming simple-celled amoebas transformed into fish, dogs, apes, and man randomly via mutation, Huxley yet fought tirelessly to ensure that this new theory became the dominant model explaining all of the life sciences and human nature more deeply. Why? If the world could be made to accept Darwin's thesis that mankind descended from apes through the sheer law of strong species destroying the weak, then the system of empire, which required the dominance of a few over the nations of the earth, could be justified scientifically. Of course, alternative systems explaining evolution outside of Darwin's narrow model existed. These non-Darwinian models acknowledged the changing fossil records and adaptability of life, but, unlike Darwin's system, acknowledged directionality, harmony, purpose, and design. Although excluded from the public debates organized by Huxley and his X-Club, these models were advanced by such great naturalists as Karl Ernst von Baer, Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, Georges-Henri Cuvier, and James Dwight Dana, to name a few. However, many of the same scientific priests around Huxley were ironically also supportive of a new movement based in spiritualism and the occult. Scientists such as Alfred Russel Wallace, co-founder of Darwin's theory of evolution and president of the British Society for Psychical Research, William James, father of modern psychology and co-founder of the American Society for Psychical Research, Henry Sidgwick, Cambridge mathematician and leading figure within the Society for Psychical Research, Sir William Fletcher Barrett, physicist and assistant to John Tyndall, Frederick William Myers, psychologist, and Sir William Peck, astronomer for the Royal Society and member of the Golden Dawn. In order to promote Darwinism and take control of all major branches of science during the latter half of the 19th century, stretching from biology, chemistry, physics, and even sociology, Huxley created one of the most influential think tanks which you have likely never heard of before, called the X-Club. Huxley's X-Club, created in 1865, was run out of the British Royal Society and featured leading British scientists loyal to the system of oligarchism. Members of the club included such figures as George Busk, Edward Franklin, Thomas Archer Hurst, Joseph Dalton Hooker, Thomas Huxley, Francis Galton, John Lubbock, Herbert Spencer, William Spotswood, and John Tyndall. By 1869, a propaganda device was created to advance the new science of the X-Club dubbed Nature magazine, and it was in Nature magazine that H.G. Wells published his first works as scientific writings before expanding his skill to the new domain of science fiction. Wells soon found himself working closely with another new think tank dubbed the Fabian Society, which aspired to use Darwinian principles infused with socialism in order to create a reformed British Empire under a peculiar doctrine of imperial socialism. Despite being managed by members who called themselves Christian or at least spiritual, the Fabian Society's disdain for Christianity can be gleaned from the logo commissioned by George Bernard Shaw in the form of a wolf in sheep's clothing. This symbolism was a direct reference to the Apostle Matthew's warning in the New Testament, which read,
"Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves."
The larger stained glass window on which the Fabian wolf appears additionally features a large image of Sidney Webb and Shaw hammering the world, featuring the line, "Remold it nearer to the heart's desire." Below this imagery are the other 12 leading Fabians praying to socialist texts as new gospels. Fabian grand strategist H.G. Wells was featured among the 12 atheist apostles, alongside leader of the Theosophists and Fabian Annie Besant, who had also devoted her life to a new world religion founded on a world empire, mysticism, and Gnosticism. This window still stands prominently today in the Fabian Society's London School of Economics. The peculiar notion of science upheld by Fabians and members of Huxley's X Club and the new domain of science fiction were always seen within H.G. Wells's own mind as two sides of the same agenda. Wells recognized that certain mental barriers were found within the general population, which simply refused to relinquish the Judeo-Christian value system in favor of scientific thinking. Concepts such as the belief in nationalism, God, and the notion that life was sacred would not be shaken off easily. Rather than act on what people believed scientifically, it was recognized that it were far more invaluable to act upon how people felt about reality and the future on levels located far below the conscious, logical domain. In his 1897 early science fiction novel of a book unwritten, taking place a million years in the future, Wells has the narrator of his story describe a future utopia in which
"The theory of evolution is now universally accepted, and it is applied unreservedly to man. Some question indeed whether it fits his soul, but all agree it accounts for his body. Man, we are assured, is descended from ape-like ancestors, molded by circumstances into men, and these apes again are derived from ancestral forms of lower order, and so up from the primordial protoplasmic jelly. Clearly then, man, unless the order of the universe has come to an end, will undergo further modifications in the future, and at last cease to be man, giving rise to some other type of animated being."
Here, Wells not only promoted Darwinism under the veil of fiction, but additionally set the stage for transhumanism, which would emerge as an elitist variation of Darwinism after World War II. It is common in today's world to associate aliens with small, frail beings with large heads. But few have contemplated where this imagery originated. It is here, once again, that H.G. Wells's active imagination was put to work. Just as Wells extends the future phases of human evolution along Darwinian lines into the transhuman future, Wells asked, what attributes would these future humans have? Since humanity's strength was located in the realm of mind, while the strength of other species was found in the realm of brute force, and since Wells was a typical British materialist who believed that brains were equivalent to minds, it was assumed that the advanced species that evolved beyond human, located on other planetary bodies, would have extremely large heads, elongated hands, and frail bodies that lost the power of doing labor. Wells wrote in Of a Book Unwritten,
"The coming man, then, will clearly have a larger brain and a slighter body than the present. The human hand, since it is the teacher and interpreter of the brain, will become constantly more powerful and subtle as the rest of the musculature dwindles."
For the facial characteristics of the aliens, Wells notes,
"Eyes large, lustrous, beautiful, soulful. Above them, no longer separated by rugged brow ridges, is the top of the head, a glistening, hairless dome, terete and beautiful. No craggy nose rises to disturb by its unmeaning shadows the symmetry of that calm face. No vestigial ears project. The mouth is a small, perfectly round aperture, toothless and gumless, jawless, unanimal. No futile emotions disturbing its roundness as it lies like the harvest moon or the evening star in the wide firmament of face."
In Wells's 1901 novel, The First Men in the Moon, two astronauts find themselves encountering an advanced lunar race that has evolved into a bug-like caste system, very similar in organization to that of an ant colony, where workers are biologically modified in order to mentally and physically be used for specialized tasks. The minds of this lunar civilization were what Wells considered the peak of evolution. Nothing but large, bulbous heads, wobbling jellies of knowledge, with atrophied bodies and organs, all towards increased efficiency of mind. The aristocracy of this species is defined by the largeness of heads, with the emperor named the Grand Lunar, having the most gargantuan brain and atrophied unused body. The lower caste workers in Wells's fantasy are known as Selenites, who are bred to physically fulfill specialized roles and sedated with drugs when not working. This was Wells's dream for what could form a stable, peaceful organizational system for humans. It was what inspired the work of Aldous Huxley in his Brave New World, and his biological hierarchy or biological caste system created in a lab to produce epsilons, deltas, betas, alphas, and alpha pluses, and the about 13 or so world controllers. The drugs that pacified the Wellsian Selenites took on the name Soma in Huxley's novel 30 years later, and LSD-25 10 years after that. By acting on the public imagination through the mode of entertainment, subtle ideas of human nature and dystopic futures could be implanted, making a society that had been overwhelmed by this sort of propaganda for sufficiently long periods of time entirely adaptable to those very dystopic realities, finding themselves increasingly incapable of imagining an alternative course for the future. Just as World War I had begun, and just as Wells began working in Britain's Ministry of Propaganda, painting the once beloved Germans as subhuman baby-killing Huns for consumers of British media, Wells's World Set Free told the story of nuclear weapons launched by Germans 50 years in the future, resulting in the hellish murder of millions of victims. In true Wellsian fashion, only a world government imposed by elites is able to end the carnage and bring about a perpetual peace. And what type of ethos would Wells's world government be organized around? In 1924, Wells described his ideal world government, dubbed the New Republic, and the character of its leading citizens.
"The men of the New Republic will not be squeamish either in facing or inflicting death. They will have ideals that will make killing worthwhile. They'll hold that a certain portion of the population exists only on the sufferance out of pity and patience, and on the understanding that they do not propagate. And I do not foresee any reason to suppose that they will hesitate to kill when that sufferance is abused.
Among the many fans of Wells, one notable Hungarian scientist named Leo Szilard found himself immersed in Wellesian literature, and after reading The Open Conspiracy, a blueprint for a world revolution in 1928, was inspired to create his own elite secret society, which he dubbed the Bund. In Wells's Open Conspiracy, he describes the character of his dreamed-of New World religion, saying,
If religion is to develop unifying and directive power in the present confusion of human affairs, it must adapt itself to this forward-looking, individuality-analyzing turn of mind. It must divest itself of its sacred histories. The desire for service, for subordination, for permanent effect, for an escape from the distressful pettiness and mortality of the individual life, is the undying element in every religious system. The time has come to strip religion right down to that. The explanation of why things are is an unnecessary effort. The essential fact is the desire for religion and not how it came about. The first sentence in the modern creed must be, not I believe, but I give myself.
He makes no qualms in declaring his trilogy: The Outline of History, published in 1919, The Science of Life, published in 1929, and the work Wealth and Happiness of Mankind, published in 1932 as the New Bible.
I have told already how I have schemed out a group of writings to embody the necessary ideas of the new time in a form adapted to the current reading public. I have made a sort of provisional Bible, so to speak, for some factors at least in the Open Conspiracy.
One of the books included in this New Bible trilogy was The Science of Life, which Wells co-authored with Julian Huxley, brother of Aldous and grandson of Thomas H. Huxley. Julian Huxley, among many things, was the originator of the term transhumanism, and also served as vice president of the British Eugenics Society from 1937 to 1944, and its president from 1959 to 1962. The Science of Life was to give a popular account of all major aspects of biology as known in the 1920s. It is credited in introducing modern ecological concepts and emphasized the importance of behaviorism and Jungian psychology. Besides Julian Huxley acting as vice president and president of the British Eugenics Society, he was also the first Director General of UNESCO, the United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization, in 1946, to which he wrote its mandate, UNESCO, its purpose and its philosophy, that same year. In it, Julian lays out the need for a world government as the only means for avoiding war, and that the full sovereignty of separate nation-states should be transferred over to this world government accordingly, under one political unity.
The moral for UNESCO is clear. It must envisage some form of world political unity, whether through a single world government or otherwise, as the only certain means of avoiding war. In its educational program, it can stress the ultimate need for a world political unity and familiarize all people with the implications of the transfer of full sovereignty from separate nations to a world organization.
In 1931, Leo Szilard had settled in London to conduct scientific research, where he met extensively with H.G. Wells in person. and was introduced to Wells's novel The World Set Free in 1932. And as the story goes, gave him the idea of nuclear chain reactions that would come to be used in the development of the atomic bomb.
While Europe careens toward war, Americans enjoy the bright summer days in isolationist innocence. But at his summer home on Long Island, Albert Einstein was hearing about a frightening development in physics from an old friend, Leo Szilard. In a 1960 interview, he explained how the insight emerged as he thought about Rutherford and an H.G. Wells science fiction story about a nuclear war.
In that war, London, Chicago, Paris, and other cities are destroyed. He puts this war into the year 1956. This is the most remarkable prediction that I ever see. And this book had a very great influence on me.
While neither Wells nor Szilard supported Nazism, their disdain for democracy led them to idealize forms of government that smelled a lot like fascism, evidenced by Wells's 1932 Oxford speech, where the pacifist stated,
"I am asking for liberal fascisti, for enlightened Nazis."
In 1934, Leo Szilard met with the Committee for the Scientific Survey of Air Defense, sometimes called the Tizard Committee, named after its chair, Sir Henry Tizard, rector of Imperial College. This committee was convened by the British Air Ministry to consider new technologies that the Royal Air Force might use to defend its territory against attack by bombers. Within weeks, the Tizard Committee granted the patent for nuclear chain reactions to Leo Szilard, who was neither the first person to consider nuclear chain reactions, nor did he ever build any prototype to test his ideas in reality. For whatever reason the Tizard Committee had to give Szilard the ownership of the patents, what is known is that Szilard promptly gave them back to the Admiralty of England to be classified and controlled in Britain's secret science program, rather than becoming public knowledge. Szilard said of his decision,
"Knowing what a chain reaction would mean, and I knew it because I had read H.G. Wells, I did not want this patent to become public."
In 1938, Leo Szilard was sent to the USA with the assigned task of persuading the most world-renowned scientist, Albert Einstein, that the Nazis were building a nuclear weapon, and that humanity's only hope was for the USA to in turn build a nuclear weapon faster. Einstein bit the bait, and in terror of the possibilities of nuclear Armageddon, agreed to sign a letter written by Leo Szilard and delivered to President Franklin Roosevelt, who in turn authorized the creation of the Manhattan Project. The unacknowledged initiator of the Manhattan Project happened to be the same Sir Henry Tizard who had given Leo Szilard the patent rights to nuclear fission in 1934. By this time, Henry Tizard had become the chairman of the UK's Defence Research Policy Committee, chairman of the Advisory Council on Science Policy to the government, and Foreign Secretary of the British Royal Society, making him the most powerful scientist in the empire. It was during the 1940 Henry Tizard mission to Washington, D.C., that Americans received advanced secret technologies developed by British scientists, such as the magnetotron, a device that proved instrumental in the development of radar technologies. Not only that, but during this trip, Sir Henry Tizard helped teach Americans how a secret science program must function, with a highly compartmentalized network of laboratories carrying out advanced research, with no lab or sublab permitted to know what other labs were doing. Vernon Gibson, Chief Scientific Advisor for the United Kingdom's Ministry of Defense, said of the mission,
"The application of significant federal resources enabled research, development, and production of military technology such as radar, proximity fuse, and ultimately the atomic bomb. So many of these technologies came with great boost from our friends in the TISIT mission. It completely changed the status of science and technology in America and the role of scientists and engineers in advising the federal government.
In this new system of controls, only a small nerve center of initiates would occupy the privileged seat of power, seeing what the whole was doing at any given time. With the integration of British and American intelligence agencies, the military-industrial complex, private sector firms, and academia, the Manhattan Project created a Frankenstein monster that neither Einstein nor Roosevelt had ever dreamed of. With the control and management of complex scientific systems around pre-approved mathematicians, while scientists like Albert Einstein or Kurt Gödel were excluded, Thomas Huxley's X-Club efforts at creating a centralized management of world science began to finally take hold. It is also noteworthy that those leading scientists selected to manage the new centralized cybernetics systems known as the Manhattan Project happened to have an affinity for using the destructive power of the bomb to terrorize the world into accepting a new world order. From Leo Szilard to J. Robert Oppenheimer, those assigned to controlling positions of the compartmentalized machinery of the new project were endowed by a fanatical belief in the redemptive power of atomic bombs and also world government. Oppenheimer, who directed the most important coordinating laboratory at Los Alamos, named the first nuclear bomb the Trinity, based on the concept of the redemptive power of death expressed by Christ's crucifixion. Even though Oppenheimer was happy with the success of the two nuclear bombs that wiped out millions of Japanese lives, even congratulating General Groves Kennedy by citing the Bhagavad Gita.
I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Leo Szilard shared Oppenheimer's enthusiasm for world government as a solution to the problem of nuclear war, but was dismayed that the destructive effects of the bombing of Japan did not result in the awaited embrace of this solution. Exasperated, Szilard outlined the concept of the theoretical doomsday bomb used over by Wells when, in 1950, he first elaborated the theoretical Cobalt-60 bomb that would threaten to burn atomic fire in the skies continuously for decades, as Wells's atomic bombs had done in the world set free, resulting in centuries of global devastation. Szilard's doomsday weapon would inspire Stanley Kubrick's Dr. Strangelove in later years. In H.G. Wells's 1938 book, The World Brain, the solution to global wars and destruction caused by new doomsday weapons was laid out in a new science of centralized control of all human systems. Wells stated,
"Thinkers of the forward-looking type, whose ideas we are now considering, are beginning to realize that the most hopeful line for the development of our racial intelligence lies rather in the direction of creating a new world organ for the collection, indexing, summarizing, and release of knowledge. These innovators, who may be dreamers today, but who hope to become very active organizers tomorrow, project a unified, if not centralized, world organ to pull the mind of the world together."
Rather than aspiring to make knowledge more accessible to mankind, Wells's World Brain detailed the need to reduce the English language down to a basic English of 815 words, with a limited array of definitions of terms highly controlled by an elite class of forward-looking types. This was 11 years before George Orwell's work of fiction titled 1984. The world brain formed the blueprint for a science of control based upon a nerve center of scientific priests that took the name of cybernetics, developed by Manhattan Project scientists Leo Szilard, Norbert Wiener, and John von Neumann during the course of World War II. This new Rockefeller-funded science emerged out of the war as the new operating system for imperial controls, giving rise to the cult of artificial intelligence, the concept of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, game theory, and of course, transhumanism. Just as H.G. Wells's World Brain was released to bookstores across the transatlantic, a war in Europe was just beginning, and a shadow of fear descended upon American citizens who listened to their radios with trepidation and concern. On October 30th, 1938, millions of these Americans heard something very different than usual when their regular news broadcast was interrupted by an announcement that an invasion had begun on American soil, with foreign vehicles slaughtering millions of soldiers and civilians with death rays.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw. The thing must be hollow. Hey, she's a-moving.
Look, the darn thing's unscrewing.
Keep back there. Keep back, I tell you. Hey, maybe there's men in it trying to escape.
It's red hot. They'll burn to a cinder.
Keep back there. Keep those idiots back. She's off. The top's loose. Look out there. Stand back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I have ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling out of the hollow top. Someone or something I can see peering out of that black hole, two luminous discs. Are they eyes? It might be a face. It might be... Good heavens, something's wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Come on. It's not Sierra Reeds. Come on. Come on. Hey, you guys.
Petrified Americans were bewildered and confused, and generally had no idea that they had been subjected to the first of many such social engineering experiments overseen by an agency known as the Princeton Radio Research Laboratory, funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. The intention of using alien threats from outer space as a catalyzing force to unify a frightened and superstitious population into accepting world government would play a decisive role in shaping the Cold War.
Or we can move inevitably towards the day of our mutual assured destruction.
In the next episode, we will be introduced to the emergence of a new UFO religion after World War II, the growth of an international secret science program, and an occult priesthood of transhumanists who sought to advance an alchemical deconstruction and reconstruction of humanity under a revival of ancient mystery religions.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Damn, man. Every time I watch that film, it blows me away that I just sent you a script and how you were able to compose a story with that very difficult script with a lot of abstract ideas and about science and epistemology, but you pulled it off like my God, what a piece of art.
Well, we got there. I mean, we always get there together, right? You know,
Yeah.
I get entire sections and I'll focus on one aspect to visually represent something, and then send to you guys, and you guys are like, why are you showing this? You
Well,
know,
that's true.
like it's about this. So I mean, it's always this back and forth, and it's that struggle that makes greatness, I think. You know, that being
Yeah.
said, I watched it last night because I haven't watched it since the night it premiered. So I watched it last night, and all I can see is mistakes. All I
Really?
can see. Oh yeah, man.
Oh, dude.
Yeah,
Really?
man.
What are some of the things that caused you to like go?
Oh, just things aren't aligned right. There's one section where the entire movie slips down about 100 pixels. I have no idea why.
Really?
It's these little things. It nothing to do with the structure or really how it plays out as a film. Just perfectionist, like you know, Schindler's List. This pocket watch. I could have saved one more. You know. Yeah, but I feel likewise when I get the scripts, right? I mean, a good movie is a script. It's that simple. So with good scripts, it becomes much easier. The tricky stuff with the historical documentaries like this is those abstract passages talking about how, you know, epistemology and stuff. Like, what am I going to show?
Yeah.
How am I going to make pictures for this, right? So,
well,
you know,
the
that's
imagery that you found, I don't know, stock imagery or whatever, of just the alien coming through there was like almost like a flat surface that just the alien started penetrating through, as H.G. Wells was describing his future Darwinianly evolved humans that had evolved to this weird status on some other planet. The creepiness of it all was just, and the visuals were just perfect to get across this sick idea.
Yeah, I might have used that image about 18 times so far. But yeah, we're not at the point where we got a CGI team yet, so give us another year. Yeah, give us another year.
Well, that being said, if there's anybody out there who wants to support Dollhouse Studios and Canadian Patriot Studios by helping us make more films, and you have the resources and the means, consider going to our websites and dropping a donation, because we put these things to work making films. And I don't know if you want to give a little teaser to what we do in the next episode, because I know we didn't fully follow through on everything we promised, but we did set the stage pretty well to take on the character of Tizard and the Manhattan Project and stuff like that, and UFOs themselves.
I was so stoked for we made that little kind of teaser for the end of this one. So that's one of the elements that I've been looking forward to finding out about the most. But you were being cheeky. You were being cheeky. We didn't do the UFO religion one yet, so that should be next, right?
It should be. It will be. It will be. But it's very daunting and challenging, because it's so much more multifaceted than people realize. Though it will definitely involve some Aleister Crowley, surprise, surprise, it was Aleister Crowley who designed the visual representation of what we've come to think of when we think of the Greys, of all people, right? So not a surprise, considering the role of his disciples and students in really crafting very politically powerful UFO religions after writing such things as Dianetics in the 50s. So it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but yeah, it's a difficult.
Oh, and you've got the crossover with Hubbard and the satanic jet propulsion laboratory guy. They were wife swapping, and then and he's a Crowley adherent.
Yeah, that's going to come in. That brings right in.
Goes into Dianetics, goes into and then we teased Heaven's Gate, which I want to know more about the deep background of. And then I wasn't even aware. You guys turned me on to that. You know, an actual legit UFO religion. We show some of the people in their robes there at their UFO church in California, and I didn't even know that they existed. So I mean, it's just fascinating.
Yeah. Well, these are like the followers of George Adamski, who, I mean, again, the Theosophists are going to come in a big way in that UFO religion story, because it does seem like all of the space opera, the space in which these various space operas, whether it's Isaac Asimov's Foundations or Star Wars, or so many of them, right? But there was a space created by the movement of the Theosophists themselves, who were professing to create in the 1870s and 80s a new world religion premised around the revival of Isis, hence the name Isis Unveiled. That's what Annie Besant and then Alice Bailey are talking about when they're describing the externalization of the hierarchy. It's the coming out party of this incubating, like, subtle subterranean force of a priesthood that's remained in the shadows, that they're saying, well, now is going to be the new age of Horus, the age of Lucifer, the Aquarian age, when the hierarchy can emerge now in a more directing position, that would, they can get out of the shadows, so to speak, because we won't know what we're looking at. We're going to think that we're looking at AI demons, UFO, ETs. That's what we're going to think we're looking at. So it'll be like sort of a safety cover for the new Wizards of Oz, who have this like curtain of ETs and AI and whatever other coloring they want to manage. But it all comes down to that space that Blavatsky created with her very elaborate cosmology of a war between supernatural Great White Lodge and Great Black Lodge, white hats and black hats, who are, alchemically battling out the future of humanity, of which there are certain adepts that can channel their messaging for good or for bad. And so it's her followers directly, including Crowley, who comes out directly tied to what she's doing with the Theosophists. That also plays into what the Raelians are doing with George Adamski, who was formerly a high priest of a Theosophical lodge before he becomes a UFO guru in the 20s and 30s. He's part of this like Tibetan Star of the East Theosophical Lodge of California, and then he becomes the world's first promoter of direct contact with UFOs, and his sect still exists. The Raelians are still using theosophical symbology of the swastika and Star of David. That's part of what the Raelians use. That's part of what's even in Falun Gong, is the swastika as their symbol, which is popularized not by Hitler but by Blavatsky. So fun stuff, eh? Yeah, that's why it's hard to write that script.
do you think that they're going to? Do you think that they would try to stage an alien landing, like full on?
That'd be ballsy, eh? That'd be really
well. You'd need
if
some.
they actually like brought
some special tech.
You would. They have it. Yeah. I mean, they got crazy tech. They could, I suppose, do it. I was still thinking that they were going to be doing holograms and then telling us what we're seeing, but maybe
something. Yeah,
they could do the physical landing. Maybe.
Was having good LOLs with people in chat about, the War of the Worlds movie scene, and of course, some people are going out with white flags to make friends with the aliens. And I actually see it, to edit that, I got to grab the whole movie, right? And I was just looking for cool scenes, and I put that one in because it reminded me of Independence Day. Remember Independence Day from the 90s?
Yeah, I rewatched
the guy's sister, I think, is like a stripper, and she's
like holding up the sign saying,
"I'm gonna go.
Love you."
Yeah. Don't go. It'll be dangerous. Don't go. It'll be dangerous. And she sneaks out and goes to the top and says, like, "Yeah, beam us up," on her big sign, and it's first people killed by the first people killed by the UFO. Yeah.
What a cynical image. I rewatched that movie too. It's totally like War of the Worlds 2.0. Exactly.
Yeah.
And it really normalizes like you watching a snuff film where billions of human beings are brutally massacred by the alien attack, and you sitting in the cinema are just like taking it in. And it's scary, but you're kind of exhilarated as well, watching this thing, which kind of is a very dehumanizing process by itself, eh? But
yeah, totally it's a fireworks show.
Yeah.
Fireworks show of death, of Shiva.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they snipping in the Oppenheimer quote right there as well. That's jarring and really powerful that he said that he was that enmeshed in that sense, that he was playing the role of what was it, Vishnu talking to? No, it wasn't Vishnu talking to the prince. Who was talking? Was it Shiva talking to the prince? Prince saying, "I am death."
Shiva? Yeah.
It was Shiva, right? Who was saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. So he clearly sees himself talking to the princes, the leaders of society, saying, "Look, you have to, if you want to do your duty, then you have to accept the consequences, that you have to mold society into an image that it wouldn't do by itself, which involves massive death.
Is he seeing himself as Shiva, or is he seeing himself as the prince?
I think he's seeing himself as Shiva, wielding the power that he believes he has, the power of the Trinity, of this holy Trinity, to cleanse, and because that's the idea of the Trinity.
That's
is
funny.
to cleanse,
I read it
cleanse
as him being the prince, and Shiva is appearing as death to impress him that he has to do his job.
Oh, maybe it's that way. Okay, we got to rewatch the whole thing. I'll rewatch the whole thing and take that in. I'm
because
not
of the
sure.
way, because we put the whole sentence in, so it gave me that's kind of how I thought about it. At least if what they say about him, ultimately regretting his role, it makes more sense in that context. But everyone always just takes the snippet of "I am become death," and it makes it sound rather megalomaniacal.
Well, he is like, I don't know. I got to watch the whole thing once again, but it seems, I was just looking at some research, and it seems his communist cell, because he's part of this actual communist cell, it was tied to the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis. Yeah. Yeah. It was like one of the lodges, the cells that were providing funding for the Aleister Crowley Lodge that Jack Parsons and Hubbard were both leading.
They didn't show that in the Nolan movie.
No, but the Nolan movie,
they showed the cell. They showed the cell. I mean, he went up on charges for that.
Yeah, but there are clues in the Nolan movie, because the Nolan movie is like at one point when you see the picture of his girlfriend, the communist girlfriend, dying. There's a picture of a black hand holding the back of her head down. It's just very quick. He just throws it in there as a little like cheeky homage to the big joke. There's a couple of other things like that, because Nolan himself, I'm quite persuaded, is initiated and vetted to be one of the controllers of the zeitgeist, the collective dream. And so I think he's privy to the real story of Oppenheimer, who was not only just accused of possibly killing his girlfriend, but I think that little like hand in the back of her head that would have been the hand of Oppenheimer in the movie. I think that was a little bit of an homage.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, damn. I hope Nolan isn't, but yeah, he probably is.
Yeah, dude. I'm sorry.
Such a good filmmaker.
No, he's very talented. Very high quality stuff.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, David Fincher, too. And not to get too off track here, but David Fincher and his, homage to the Zodiac Killer, the guy who did Fight Club, which I really like Fight Club. It's artistry, very good artistry. But also, yeah, a lot of the more influential figures, it's such a power. It's the most potent power of the sorcerers in our current age to shape the collective imagination and the collective dream, which the power of these high budget movies offers. And so they have to like be vetted in a very high way to be permitted to be the ones to do that. Yeah, it's a whole side. That's going to be, I think, episode 6 though of our series. Going to be on the CIA, the sci-fi aspect of the whole story. That'll come after the cults one, but I think the cults one has to be built first. Then we can do the actual, like we painted the picture of H.G. Wells, but we'll take it further now and look at things like was that one with the AI robot that lands out of the UFO in like 1951 on Washington, D.C. and lectures.
Yeah, the Klaatu, the day the Earth stood still.
The day the Earth stood still. That's a big one. Yeah, and you can listen. Yeah, we'll go into that and then just take it to the present. I think with So there's a couple of questions here. Somebody said, never go full Scientology. Nor partial. True. Okay. What do we have here? I think there's another question actually. Oh no, it wasn't really a question. Never mind. Okay, sorry. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Nothing.
Oh, okay.
Nothing. I'm just so looking forward to doing the next one in that series. It's fun because it's okay. It's okay to be creepy and a little more cinematic with those ones. I think with the Hidden Hand ones, we get away with a little bit more delving into eeriness and cheese a little bit. You know, we can have a little bit more fun and a little bit weirder with those ones. So I'm always looking forward to those.
I think we'll have to get a little bit more, heady, psyop-y a little bit. Like, it's going to get weird because it's the topic is weird. But it'll be fun. I think you're going to have a lot of creative space to to try out all sorts of non-linear things that I know you really you love that.
I think Jerry's got maybe a question. So the whole alien thing is fake? Sorry, Jerry.
Jerry, yeah, man. Sorry, dude.
Sorry,
it doesn't mean that there aren't living beings out there in our gigantic universe. It just means everything you think you know about them or have been told about them is pretty much a giant psyop. Yeah. Sorry, man. Team Smooth says, Pi Squared asked Matthew, can you talk about the Pilgrim Society? That was the question. I lost track of it.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, just very quickly. It doesn't really quite come into the UFO story, but yeah, I mean, it's, we could do a whole show on this at some point. And I think we've been promising to do that. It's just an Anglo-American society that was set up in 1902, which still exists to get rid of the U.S. Republic and redefine the U.S. Republic around becoming co-controllers of the world under the leadership of a renewed British Empire. So I don't know if that helps, but that's what it is and continues to be.
Who's involved with that?
Henry Kissinger was the chairperson of it for decades.
There you go.
Tucker Carlson and his father are both members of the Pilgrim Society. But it was originally set up by, I think, Lord Carrington. And it's the head of it, the patron of it, is always the British monarch, whoever's sitting there. And it's just been doing its thing. It's good, highly baked into Washington, D.C.
Lord Carrington, the voting machine guy?
No, probably
is that Carrington.
One. I got to go to the here.
I know the name.
We go to the Wikipedia page here. Wikipedia Pilgrim Society. I'm just googling it right now here. It'll just say the basic first degree facts. Oh, sorry, Sir Harry Britton. Yeah, I'm sorry, I was mixing up my names. Sir Harry Britton, Knight Commander of the British Empire, set up this British American Society to promote goodwill, good fellowship, and everlasting peace between the United States and Great Britain.
I say. Good show. What?
Amongst the elites who have been members of this, they include, of course, Sir Kissinger and Margaret Thatcher, but also Caspar Weinberger and Henry Luce, who comes up big time in the next episode of the Hidden Hand Behind UFOs. Lord Carrington.
The next one that's done. The one that's done.
The one that's done. That we'll play next week, episode 3.
Yeah, nice.
And you can come on to that if you want to.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, Lord Carrington, actually, British conservative politician, hereditary peer, defense secretary in the 70s, foreign secretary in the 70s, 80s.
That's where I know the name.
Yeah, so that he was
probably conspiracies as well, but that's where I know the name.
George Shultz, Walter Cronkite, Paul Volcker, some big names. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and of course they want the erosion of the republic.
Of course they want the erosion. Yes, right. Of course. Well, I think they work kind of like they're adjacent to the Round Table movement. Sort of they work together because the Round Table movement was also officially created in 1902 with the inauguration of King Edward VII. Both as soon as King Victoria is dead, Edward VII comes in, the international Grand Master of World Freemasonry, especially the United Lodge. That's when you have all of these institutions being created over the dead body of William McKinley in 1902. They got to kill McKinley, get in Teddy Roosevelt as now the Anglophile wannabe imperial president who creates the first special relationship with England, and then they're free to start bringing in all of these things into the USA as sort of their new celebration, I guess, of the of the new deep state 2.0 in the United States that takes another century to really incubate and grow.
And then Round Table goes right into CFR. right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
The Council on Foreign Relations is the American branch of the Round Table movement in 1921. That's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What did you guys watch last week?
We
Ms. Mauser
watched.
said it was great.
Yeah, it was. That was the Devil at Woodstock that that Dave Gosselin did months ago. So that one goes through sort of the what is it? It's a little bit more of the dark undercurrents of Woodstock and all of the like messed up occult societies, Charles Manson, who were all part of that
cool.
Woodstocking operation with the military-industrial complex. It's a jarring
It's
film.
up on YouTube? Is it up on YouTube?
It is, yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'd love to see it.
Okay, yeah, I'll shoot it to you.
He's got a great mood.
He does. Yeah, no, it's a more artsy style, but everything has its place, and it's pretty raw, and it tells. What's nice is that he splices in a reading of a poem by Daniel Leach, who's a pretty amazing modern poet, but using the classical style. And Daniel Leach, who came on for about 5 minutes with us just to say hi and talk about his poem that inspired the film. He was just going through his because he was at Woodstock as a young teenager, and so he's just sort of reevaluating what it was he experienced in a really visceral way that comes in all throughout the movie as Dan Leach reading his poem.
Oh,
so
cool.
it's pretty cool.
All right, I gotta watch it. And
then we got here Summer Gopher 61 says aliens no, interdimensional time travelers yes, in my opinion. Well, that's that
a lot
is
more likely.
Well, yeah, sure. But a lot of these things, and this is it comes up a little bit actually, this question of the interdimensional extraterrestrial hypothesis. We do talk about this a little bit in episode 3 that people will see next week, and episode 4 as well. So that's something. Tune in for our take on the interdimensional hypothesis that Anna Paulina Luna and the Jacques Vallée crowd they're really heavy pushing on that one right now on all the podcast lines and Tucker Carlson and everything. Kind of it merges the ET thing with the demonology thing, and the quantum mechanics thing, because it implies that that the whole scientific Rockefeller takeover of sci-fi it wasn't just that Rockefeller was doing or medical science. It was also physics and quantum science that got derailed by the Rockefellers to justify a new type of scientific language with all sorts of assumptions baked into it by the Copenhagen school that started getting Rockefeller funding and became the dominant language that started justifying 11-dimensional string theory, 27-dimensional string theory. All of these things were created as an outgrowth of the Copenhagen school of mathematicians and probability theorists that are then used to justify the Vishnu statue, the Kali statue and the Vishnu statues at CERN that also seem to be tied to some human sacrifice stuff, where you've got these scientists who really believe that they're opening portals to, a demonic horde in another dimension. They actually believe these things, but they're processed in a certain, ideological milieu for a reason. So now they're merging all of these things that they've been incubating into one place, which Jacques Vallée and J. Allen Hynek played a key role in orchestrating. So again, we'll tune in for next week's show at Monday at 6 p.m. where we'll watch that episode and then talk about the extra or interdimensional ET hypothesis angle as well.
And just for the record, the only reason I said it was more plausible is that compared to aliens driving spaceships to our planet regularly, I'll go with interdimensional time travelers before I go for actual, spaceships landing here. The distances and logistics involved with that they would regularly be buzzing our planet is just, it's unthinkable.
I wouldn't even have an issue with it if they weren't crashing all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, we hit that one in, was it the last one, part 4, where we had the alien crashing?
Yeah.
Sound effects and stuff, yeah.
The Roswell special we did, yeah. All right, cool. So it's 7:27. I think we're reaching up here to the 7:30 mark, where we have to make way for the next episode at Badlands Media, where I think Gordon's going to come in with the geopolitical analysis of the world as he sees it. So
Great.
that's going to be in 2 minutes. Any final words you want to throw out there for our friends watching right now?
Everybody, keep up, keep sharing Matt's and Cynthia's films, A Canadian Patriot and Rising Tide. These are important subjects. More people need to be in on this so that we're not in on it when it goes down. And if you're interested in my work, you can find it at dollhousestudios.com or superspreaders.space.
All right. Dollhousestudios.com, superspreaders.what?
Space.
Space. Okay,
Yeah,
fun. And
ironically.
Yeah, this is nice. Very, very poetic.
Yeah.
And Jason's X account is in the first comment under this video right now on Rumble, so you can also give Jason a follow on X. Jason, thank you so much for taking your Monday night with us, and thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks.
You're gonna be alright. Just hold on for one night. It may take your whole life, but joy comes in the sunrise. Sunrise, just stay there. Good things will come later. God made you for greater. Hold on for that sunrise. To the lost and the broken, who don't know where their home is. Don't forget where your hope is. I'm just helping you notice. You're gonna be alright. Just hold on for one night. It may take your whole life, but joy comes in the sunrise. Sunrise, just stay there. Good things will come later. God made you for greater. Hold on for that sunrise. No, God didn't forget you. Or the things that you've been through. He was there right beside you, helping to guide you and let some light through. I'm just here to remind you, you're gonna be all